Yo. Okay, Mr. Soundman, I think you can start the presentation, please. I've got my clicker. Cool. Better? Okay, bonsoir. Thanks for coming. My name is Matt Black from the group Cold Cut and the label Ninja Tune. Great to be here at Inasound. And I'm going to talk about my sort of journey with audiovisual art. I've only got 3/4 of an hour, so I'm going to just keep it very short. And the cards presentation will be in French, so I'll talk in English. I'll try and talk clearly, and hopefully the cards will be a useful reference. So, let's roll. So I'm going to talk a bit about my initial journey. I started off being interested in science and science fiction, and used to do sort of sound and light shows for my mum and dad. My mum called it a Sonny Lumiere show, which inspired and encouraged me, and Fantasia by Disney was a big inspiration as well. At school, I had a little crew of friends. We were into synthesizers, building synthesizers, running a little radio station and a disco at school. And then at university, I made my good friends, who are still my best friends now. And we were really into black music, reggae, African music, soul music and funk. And then hip-hop started. This was about 1980. And so I learned to scratch. It was all about hip-hop, scratching, DJing, MCing, graffiti, and body popping and breakdancing. It's a strong culture. So I learned to scratch. I had a DJ battle with Nelly from the Wild Bunch, who became Massive Attack later. That was a big inspiration. And then I started working as a computer programmer and also DJing on the London, what's called the London underground scene, the sort of alternative club scene and music scene and culture scene in London. And then in 1986, I met my partner, Jonathan Moore, at a second-hand record shop called Reckless Records. And we wanted to make a record like these incredible records from New York by Double D and Steinsky and other artists. And so I used a 4-track cassette deck and just turntables, vinyl, and a 4-track cassette. And we made 500 copies of a record, and it was called Say Kids, What Time Is It? This was the top breakbeat.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub, and stroll right into town, and be just like the other men. I'm tired of moving around, oh.
So it's a kind of formula, actually. I discovered that it's quite effective. It's something stupid or catchy over a heavy beat, and quite a lot of records can be analysed using that formula. And then later on, a guy at 4th and Broadway Records asked us to remix Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full. So this was a chance to work with a major US hip-hop artist, and it sold several million copies, but we only got £700 for doing it. But it did get us on the cover of the NME, so that was kind of the start of our more pop career. This was sampling the Israeli singer Ofra Haza.
You make me feel so good.
And at that time, there was no framework for sampling. We just thought we could get away with it. But when that was a big hit, the Ofra Haza's lawyers and management made a deal with Ireland, and she got 33% of the publishing. So that was when this sort of framework for legal sampling, using bits of other people's music in your own track, sort of got established. And then we went on to make some hit records with Yaz and Lisa Stansfield. We had a #1 record with The Only Way Is Up. And then we got into a difficult contractual situation because the record company just wanted us to make like a sausage machine, just wanted us to turn the wheel and make more hits like those. But we didn't really know how to do that because we were not experienced producers. We were just guys enjoying what we did. So we found we couldn't use the name Cold Cut anymore because of the contract. So that was when we started Ninja Tune Records after a tour of Japan. It's a new identity. And we had the sort of different identities like DJ Food and Bogus Order. And then we started to get other artists who wanted to join the label. And we wanted to have an artist-led label where it wasn't a corporation telling us what we could do and where we accounted fairly and we had a good, fair deal with our artists. And now we have some incredible artists who perhaps you know, like Cinematic Orchestra and Bonobo, Young Fathers. And I'm very proud to have a company that puts out what I think is first-rate, really good music. And I've not been that great a businessman, but in a way, you only need one good business idea and be able to actually realize that. So Ninja Tune has been our best business idea so far. So after that, we started taking the aesthetics and techniques of DJing and applying them to visuals. For example, mixing, sampling, sequencing, looping, repetition, making rhythms, cutting, scratching, and processing and effects. That's kind of the DJ and electronic music producer's toolbox. And applying those to visuals. And it's interesting that synthesizers are like computer graphics. It's very pure, clean imagery, and samples are more like the real world footage, which are more figurative and dirty. So we like mixing analog and digital, synths and samples, computer graphics and the real world. And that direction of applying hip-hop music techniques to visuals has been fruitful for the last 30 years. And Christine Van Asch was a curator at the Pompidou Center who made a good exhibition called Sonic Process and invited us to be part of that. And that Sonic Process was all about how artists are applying music and audio techniques to visuals. So let's take a look at some of examples of what I call audiovisual. AV is the art of audiovisual relations. You can have different types of relationships, and this is a simple kind from a TV show called The Prisoner.
Cold.
Cold.
So it's literal.
Cut. Cut.
You see a head on the screen, you see it saying words. It's a literal audiovisual relationship. This is a constructed audiovisual relationship. And I saw this in Selfridges in London, running on an Amiga in 1988. I saw this demo and I thought, that means you could make a whole film, computer graphics, on the desktop. So I bought an Amiga and tried to do stuff like that. And I came up with this. Once again, James Brown, the funky drummer, big inspiration. And constructing an animation which synchronizes to that. Then we started getting a bit more sophisticated. We found we could take in audiovisual samples, take in the audio, take in the visual, take them into a program like Premiere where you have a timeline and then start editing it frame by frame. So working with Stuart Warren Hill, we made this piece called Timber. Two French connections I can say with this track actually. One was the pioneer Jean-Jacques Perry, who came to our studio one time. Thank you. And he said, yes, this is the future of rock and roll. So I was pleased with that endorsement. And also the the rhythm loop that is based on is sampled from, well, I'll just say someone who's a very important character at Inasound Festival. I won't say who it is because I might get in trouble, but we sampled that. People often ask what comes first, the visual or the sound, and in this case it was the sound that came first. An electronic loop that's in the loop and reinforced them. So we've got the chainsaw and the axe hits there, but it's not exactly a literal relationship because we're reinforcing the original sound from the video with other sounds. And then this lady's singing. Again, it's kind of the musical hook, a sweet voice on a heavy beat. And we licensed that sample from a documentary on ITV, and I think we paid €3,000 for that. I hope she got some of it, but she probably didn't. So that's an example where you can have what we call audiovisual effects. You put a trails effect, which is like video feedback. It's a bit like dub echo. You put that on the visual, and then you apply an audio effect that matches it. And so we're creating them. We're creating relationships between an audio stream and a visual stream. And so what we found is that these relationships can be created however you like. So they're plastic. That means that they're fully flexible. You can make up any relationship just by putting a piece of sound together with a piece of visual, and that will create a relationship between the two. Sometimes you could put a sound and a visual together that are completely inappropriate, and that might be appropriate and might give you a good result. Sometimes you find things that match well, and like in real life, it's all about relationships. Some relationships work better than others, so you play around, you try combining something with something else and see if it's got that special magic that makes you think, yes, that is a really good mixture. In 1997, we released our own software to enable you to do this live for our own show, and this was called VJam. We made it using the open source free frame effects format, and it was with some friends of mine from Cambridge called CamArt. We called it a piano for sound and vision. Something like Timber is actually edited frame by frame, very hard work, but something like VJam was intended to be more of an actual instrument that you could play with audiovisual samples. And here's some shots from the kind of crazy setups that we used to use for our live shows. The one in the bottom left there is from the Pompidou Centre. Again, they've been supporting Cold Cut and what we've been doing for ages. And we used to change the different mixers and bits of technology. That's called circuit bending. You take something and you add some circuits to it. I am not a very good electronics engineer myself, but I've worked with people that could have the skills to combine, for example, an audio mixer with a video mixer to give you an audio-visual mixer, which is what the double crossfader at the bottom. With one crossfader, I can control the audio mixer and the visual mixer, so I can kind of do hip-hop scratching with one mixer. Here's a clip from a tour of ours in 2006, and I think also features a scene, a bit from a festival in France.
Lunatics have taken over. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. Destructive intentions. Mad ambitions.
Also shows our fondness of political samples. Cut the politicians up, find out what they're really saying. That's a French crowd and samples from that French hip-hop film La Haine. And it's amazing if you give people something that they recognize, that they really respond to it. If you just combine things that people don't know, they don't know how you're combining them. But if they understand the ingredients that you're using, then they can understand how they're putting them together. Great film as well. Here's a bit from a video we made called Cooking with Cold Cut. And this was about genetically modified food. And we made our own samples. You can make your own original samples. We filmed in a friend's kitchen, banging various saucepans and stuff. and also combined it with computer graphics, so it's a mixture of real world and computer graphics.
A pinch of DNA. A dash of virus. DNA. Virus. New. Improve. Better than real.
Again, different sorts of audiovisual relationship. Matrix, kick, go on, kick and John. So that, again, is constructing different sorts of audiovisual relationship. In 2008, we got a grant from the European Union, and may I say, I'm very sad and angry that the UK is leaving the company of the rest of Europe, or I hope that we won't, but I've always felt part of Europe, and I hope we stay in. So this was with friends throughout Europe. We made a film about intelligent energy, and using a sort of electronic music base and animation, processed visuals, sampled visuals, original filming of people and texts, and I had a crew of 5 people helping me with this. So it was a bit like being a film director, which is was a lot of fun as a top job. So we did 20 concerts throughout Europe, and did sort of live mix downs of these at different festivals and parties throughout Europe. Targeted kind of a youth audience. Looking forward to the death of old power. That's the key image. Humanity's on a tightrope. We're going to make it.
I'll sign.
Ja ću potpisati.
Ja sam ovdje.
I'll sign up.
Ich werde unterschreiben.
Ja ću se prijaviti. Ja sam se odlučio potpisati.
I choose to sign.
Deutsche Welt nimmt gerade keinen unserer Entscheidungen. Wir zwei sind jetzt mehr als nur zwei. Wir verkörpern etwas. Wir sitzen auf dem Platz des Volkes. Und der ganze Platz ist voll von Leuten, die sich dasselbe wünschen wie wir. Wir bestimmen das Spiel für alle. Ich bin bereit. Nun bist du dran. Du hast das Spiel der Reihe. Jetzt. Ich bin bereit. Nun bist du dran.
Still a message that's more urgent than ever. I hear there's quite some extinction rebellion stuff going on in Paris at the moment, so in London we've been part of that as well. Let's do it. Here's a short clip using what I call audiovisual synthesis, so that's producing some visuals, producing some music, actually synthesizing them at the same time. Shout out to Memo at Act 10 who provided so much code which we've used. He's a very generous, amazing audiovisual artist who contributes a lot to the community. Memo Act 10. So this is real-time synthesis. And again, so as you see, I'm exploring the different scope of the types of relationship that there can be between audio and visual. There's React is a program made by Native Instruments, and they produce this visual element to it. Different ways of visualizing sound directly. Kind of like a digital oscilloscope. And here's another short piece. Now, I'm going to be doing an audiovisual show tomorrow, by the way. Oh, let's go back again. So this should play. Oh, okay, that one's not going to play for us, never mind. Yeah, we're going to be doing an audiovisual show in one of the big rooms here tomorrow night with myself and my wife, Dinaz Stafford. So come along to that. We'll be showing some of these pieces and doing actual full live show. So here's a piece which Jais, my friend, commissioned for us to do a show in Paris a little while ago, a couple of years ago. So taking Arthur Rimbaud's poetry and then experimenting with using text and visuals and music. So that those trails that you see that's video feedback, which is a favorite technique of mine. Again, I mentioned it's kind of like dub echo. You actually take some of the video source and feed it back into the input, and you get these incredible trails. The first example I ever saw of that was Doctor Who. The titles to Doctor Who have some incredible feedback at the beginning. Okay, now we're going to move to live demonstration. So this is an app we've released free for iOS, and it's using this concept of visual granular synthesis. So audio granular synthesis is a well-known technique where you take a small piece of sound and kind of stretch it out and start making new waveforms and new sounds with it. So by analogy, visual granular synthesis starts with a picture and then takes that picture and uses a part of it to start drawing patterns with. So I'm going to put the mic down for a sec. Let's see if I can. And moving to these screens. So we released this as a free album with 10 tracks on it by Bogus Order. It's the first artist on Ninja Tune, but it's actually Jonathan and myself. And it comes with these 10 tracks, each of which has a different visual synthesis preset on it. That's not going to work. Never mind. It's okay. It's okay. I'll just rock through it. You'll get the idea. Select one of the presets. Is this coming out? Yeah. Watch out for the dodgy connections here. So it loads the preset. It's a bit difficult to see with these lights. Okay, here we go. So one very important thing with audiovisual relationships is getting the BPM right. You want the visuals to be pulsing or moving at the same speed as your actual music. So when the beat kicks in, you'll see this. But these presets are all interactive. So if you don't do anything, then it just plays, but you can also start interacting with the visuals like that. Hopefully you'll see that the movements are coordinated with a beat. I can, using pinch and zoom gestures like this, turn feedback on. Shake to clear the screen. So this is part of a much bigger program called Pixie. And Pixie's like a modular synthesizer. The full version's like a modular synthesizer where you can build these presets. So if we can take a look at another one. So take a look at this one. So that's quite nice, but the cool bit about this is that you can sample a picture into it. So if I select the camera, yeah. Okay. So that's now using the picture I've just taken as the basis for that synthesis. And so I quite like going into art galleries or anywhere and just sampling stuff in and then remixing it live. You can also then share pictures, so if I like a picture, I can just freeze it like that. So that's something a bit more interesting. Freeze it and then share that by your social media, etc. Let's have a look at another preset. Quite interesting seeing the sort of fragments of the picture which get then mashed up and glitched out in the synthesizer. So that's Pixie, and I think I can, I'll just keep running on the iPad for the moment actually. Where are we on there? Okay, yeah. Sorry, that was the slide for Pixie. That was the live demo. And yeah, do feel free to download it if you've got an iPhone or an iPad. It's quite good fun to play with. Here we decided to make a game. And I think computer games are a really interesting new art form. Before, I think film and movie was the top art form. But in a way, games combine music, images, script writing, text, story, and they also add interactivity. So I think games should be used more for art. So this was a game called Robbery, and this was, rather than just make a video for a cold cut track, Robbery, we thought we'd make an interactive video, a game. And this is inspired a bit by Terry Gilliam, Monty Python. It's a great British sense of humour. And again, it's about cut and paste, sampling different graphics, and then also making up our own graphics. And this is on the theme of the bankers having stolen all our money, and we need to get them, the bankster gangsters, into jail and get the people's money back. Let's see if I can have a quick demonstration. It gets a lot more difficult, actually. So you may have noticed getting the banksters into jail is actually pretty difficult. But we shouldn't give up. Yeah, I think I'm more or less coming to the end of the demonstration, actually. So again, that's free for your iPhone if you want to have a look at it. Interesting, Google banned that game because of this gesture. They felt it was very rude and offensive, but what I think is rude and offensive is Google not paying any taxes. What have we got on the board here? Let's have a look. So again, yeah, that is the bankster. He's getting away with the people's money, and he's very happy about it. So, Cold Cut, my group, were 30 years old last year, and so we did a new show using quite a lot of the technology which I'm demonstrating, and also we have our Ninja Jam software, which is another free app, and that is the sort of core, the basis of our show. So I'm just going to give a quick demonstration of that, and that's sort of, my main baby at the moment is this app, Ninja Jam. So over the last 30 years, we've been trying to find a way to make electronic music, to make instruments for electronic music. I don't think that the beats culture, electronic music, house, techno, hip-hop, are really that well served by the old school kind of instruments. You know, keyboards and other types of instruments don't really suit DJ culture and electronic music. So we've been trying to find ways that you can actually perform electronic music and compose it in a way that is more directly related to DJ culture and electronic music heritage and techniques and aesthetics. So this is where we've got to with it. And this is again, you can look for Ninja Jam. This is available for Android and iOS for free. But this is the pro version, and it's kind of a beta version. We're going to release it. I promised to release it this year, actually. I've been saying that for the last few years, but this time I mean it. So let's have a look. I have a quick jam on this. What shall we use? So a bit of techno. Yep, that could just about work. Okay, let's have a look. Basically a loop engine. Four channels, drums, bass, synths, and more synths. So you can cut them in and out, make space. Quite a lot of real-time effects. distortion, filter, delay, and reverb, independently on 4 channels. Real-time sampling. So that's recorded that into recorded what I was doing into that clip. You can also record your voice in and use it as like a live looper. And just time for my favorite bit, the cold cutter. I'll just break it down to just the drums. Let's have a different clip. Okay, here we go. So making a new beat is easy, just like dragging your finger over it. Or reshuffle it. Real-time fills. Reverses. Change the timing totally. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jean-Michel Jarre is going to be coming in here soon. I've got another 5 minutes left, and be very happy to answer questions about anything at all. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, fire away. I don't know if there's a microphone for people to... Dinny? Could you take round the mic if anyone's got any questions?
Hi. Thanks for your demo. It was quite nice to see. But like, were you inspired by Ableton? I get the feeling it's like an interactive way how you can use Ableton, but just in a maybe easier way. I don't know how you feel about it. Just it reminds me all of these effects that you can play with and just like compose your song or.
Yeah, fair question. I must say that we had our own version of this before Ableton in the 90s. It was called DJing.
Yeah, DJing.
It was similar. It was a 4-track loop mixer. So I've been developing software like this for a long time, before Ableton. But I do love Ableton. I use it, and I work closely with those guys. Actually, we released a product with Ableton a couple of years ago, another bit of software. And there are other loop engines. Ableton wasn't even the first, but it is a great program. What I've tried to do is put that functionality into something that's more natural to use. Sometimes you see Ableton with people using it on stage, and they're looking.
Yeah, is that quite like
They're looking at their laptop, but with this, you've got the touch and the screen in one. So I find it, for me, it's a more natural instrument to use directly like that.
Yeah, it's more interactive. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's more direct. But yes, Ableton's a great software and lots of people use it, but this is our instrument. And I think there's quite a lot of other differences as well. If I have some time, perhaps I can show you some of the other special things about it.
That's sure. Thanks.
here.
Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if you had ever worked on more like making visual out of MIDI signals, or because like I'm jamming with my friends. I have like an electronic music band with we have synthesizers on stage and stuff like that. But it's hard to have the same live experience as you have as a rock band, for example, where like you can see the guitar player play and stuff, and would like to go towards that, like making people understand what we're doing, for example, changing the cutoff filter or stuff like that. Have you ever worked on stuff like this?
Yeah, I mean, I hope with I don't know if you saw the earlier part of the talk about audiovisual relationship. There's many, many ways in which you can combine music and visuals. They go very well together. It could just be a film, or it could be a rock band on stage, dressed up in funky clothes, providing the visuals, as you're saying, the excitement of playing real instruments is a really good thing to watch as well. I think there's many different ways you could do it, and in the different types of show and the different people I work with, I try and investigate lots of different ways. So for instance, if I was jamming, say, with a drummer or a percussionist, I might have a camera on them, and then I'd take the camera feed and I'd put it into my video mixer, and then I would apply video effects to that, so that you can see the action of the player on screen, but you can also see how the sound is being changed and affected at the same time, creating an audiovisual relationship of what I was talking about before.
Yeah, but how about like synthesis from like sound waves or MIDI?
Yes, I think that's very good. I mean, I did show a couple of examples of that actually. The amoeba, for example, is very simple, but what I'm doing there is I'm playing a synthesizer, and at the same time those MIDI notes are triggering a graphic, and as I change the filter on the synthesizer sound, I'm changing the 3D shape that's on screen as well. So that's an example of what you're talking about. Also, with the jam program I just demonstrated, if you come to our show tomorrow, you'll see visuals closely connected to the music. And the way we do that is that every sound here has a visual loop, and this program sends out MIDI signals to trigger the visual components as well. So that's one way that we tightly link it up. You know, we understood, I think Kolka understood, that perhaps us on stage was not that interesting, and that's why we provided big screen visuals to look at. And what's on the screen and how that's connected to the music, that can work in many different ways. I have noticed, and I'm very pleased actually, artists like Daft Punk and the Chemical Brothers and many big electronic artists now use visuals as part of their shows. Big electronic music shows have adopted using visuals to add excitement to the show. So I think that shows that it is an idea that works. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it's exactly 6 o'clock, so I'm going to be a good boy and vacate to the stage to the next two. Thank you very much.